Imagine a world where being a doctor or a nurse or a medic makes you a target. Imagine a world where hospitals and clinics are routinely bombed. Imagine a world where seeking medical care means risking death. Imagine a world where government forces strip medical supplies out of aid convoys. Imagine a world where people are being starved to death and dying for lack of medicine and health care. Imagine the world watching this happen and doing nothing. You don't have to imagine these things if you live in Syria. For the past 5 years, the world has stood by and watched Syria's government and its allies target civilians, doctors, nurses, and the healthcare infrastructure. These attacks serve no purpose to make this war absolute hell. We at Physicians for Human Rights have been tracking attacks on healthcare in Syria. Since the beginning of the conflict, we've documented the murder of more than 730 medical workers. A conservative estimate, to be sure, hundreds more have been detained, tortured, and disappeared for the crime of providing medical care to those in need. Physicians for Human Rights has also documented more than 360 attacks on hospitals and clinics, each of which constitutes a war crime. These attacks are systematic and they violate the Geneva Conventions and the prohibition against attacks on medical facilities that is a standard that was established more than 150 years ago. Syrian government forces, with the direct assistance and engagement of Russia, are responsible for more than 90% of both the murder of healthcare workers and the attacks on the healthcare infrastructure. And we have no doubt that this pattern, this intentional assault on healthcare, constitutes a crime against humanity. And yet doctors and nurses continue to work in Syria in defense of humanity. We're here today to tell the world about the courage and the resilience of Syria's healthcare workers who stay in Syria. They could leave, but they don't. They remain even though the odds of survival are against them. These men and women stay so they can tell the story of how individual governments and the international community failed them. We stand here today to commemorate the honor of those who have died while trying to save lives. And we stand here today to highlight the abject failure of the UN Security Council, charged with maintaining international peace and security, but failing to address these crimes. Everyone has the right to live in dignity, free from fear and free from want. But people in Syria are living in fear and in want. They die quickly from bombs and slowly from starvation. This will not, cannot, and should not stand. Let's demand actions to save our colleagues, to demand justice for the victims, and to prevent these attacks in Syria from becoming the new normal in war. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Rob Williams, and he's the Executive Director of War Child UK, and we're really happy to have him here today with us.
There are no more paediatricians in Aleppo. They've all been killed. They're dead. They and their colleagues have been systematically targeted by forces who are not just interested in fighting their armed opponents. They're intent on destroying the city itself and everybody in that city, men and women and children. And without doctors, children will die. Children who have injuries that can be treated will bleed to death. Children who have infections that can be treated will succumb and they will die. The criminal minds that are directing forces towards doctors, towards hospitals, towards schools, have turned this incredible ancient city into a toxic wasteland for children and their families. And so they flee. They flee in their hundreds of thousands. They come to Jordan, they come to Iraq, they come to Turkey. And when they arrive, they tell us the most horrific stories of what's happened to them. I want to tell you about an 8-year-old girl who arrived in a war child centre over the border from Syria. She said she had 2 weeks before been sitting on a doorstep sharing a bag of crisps with her best friend, a normal enough thing to do. Suddenly her best friend, who was also 8, was shot through the head by an accurate shot from a sniper at the end of the road. On the same day, a 6-year-old girl told us that when her street was shelled, she and her mother spent 2 hours picking up the pieces of her 2-year-old sister so that they could bury them in the backyard. These stories are shocking. There are hundreds of thousands of stories like these, and they cross the border every single day. The other shocking thing about those stories is they're 4 years old. We have known for at least 4 years that this conflict is out of control. This conflict has targeted hospitals. They understand that a doctor can help 10,000 people, and if you take one doctor out, you will cause that 10,000 to flee. This conflict has been out of control for 4 years. And the big question for me is, why are we still here 4 years later trying to grasp the reality of what's happening in Syria? Why is it that this country is now a toxic wasteland for children and civilians, doctors, nurses and teachers? Why are the refugee camps over the border so badly funded that a child has barely a small chance of getting into a school place, never mind getting back with their families? Why is the humanitarian system so completely overwhelmed that we're having our own emergency summit at the World Humanitarian Summit in Istanbul in 3 weeks' time to figure out how to save not just the people who rely on the system, but the system itself? The answer is, I think, very clear. It's not just refugees who are running away from this conflict. It is the world in general, the governments who could do something about this, our political leaders. They are fleeing this conflict as fast as the refugees, hoping, as they look over their shoulder, that somebody will be able to sort this out. Some miracle will take place. They understand that hospitals are being bombed, but they understand that to do anything involves some kind of personal risk, career risk. But actually, here's a risk now. Here's a lot of people who are saying bombing hospitals is not acceptable. We will not accept this. And you know, the more people who say that, the more action we will get from governments who can really influence what's happening on the ground. So I want to ask you to tell the leaders of the various countries involved exactly how you feel about this situation. Do you accept the bombing of hospitals? No! Do you accept the murder of doctors? No! Do you accept the targeting of nurses? No! Do you want this fighting to stop? Yes. We can make that happen. The more people who come to places like this and say this is simply not acceptable, we can work together and we can stop this. Because the final truth about this is, in a world where Syria is not fit for children, that's a world that's not fit for my children either. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Rob. Really powerful. Our next speaker is a doctor. It's Natalie Roberts, and she's a doctor from MSF who's worked in a number of conflict zones.
Hi everyone. My name is Natalie Roberts. I am a doctor with MSF and Médecins Sans Frontières, and I've worked in many conflicts, including in Syria, in Yemen, in Ukraine, and in the Central African Republic. 4 years ago, I went to Syria for the first time. Already by then, hospitals had been destroyed by barrel bombs. Already medical staff were working in field hospitals. They were working in caves, in underground car parks, and in basements. For the beginning of the conflict, they'd been targeted for providing medical care. The main blood bank in Aleppo had already been destroyed. Patients were refusing to stay in hospitals. They were worried it was more dangerous there than it was in their own homes. Hospitals are supposed to be a place of safety, but the Syrian people had quickly realized that in fact hospitals were already a target.
المستشفيات تتعرض للقصف. عندما زرت منشآت طبية سمعت بطبيعة الحال صوت الطائرات والقنابل التي تسقط على تلك المناطق. هناك الكثير من العاملين الذين ساعدوني وأكدوا أن كل شيء سيكون على ما يرام. الآن أستلم رسائل من الأصدقاء السوريين وهم يشعرون بالذنب لأنهم غادروا سوريا، وبعضهم لا يزالون هناك وقالوا أن هناك منشآت طبية دمرت وزملاء قتلوا بينما كانوا يوفرون الرعاية الصحية. ذهبت إلى اليمن في السنة الماضية والقصة هي ذاتها. كنت أدعم 5 منشآت طبية، 3 منها ألحقت بها الأضرار والمرضى لم يريدوا أن يبقوا في تلك المستشفيات أثناء الليل. الكثير من الموظفين فروا لأنهم لم يستطيعوا أن يحموا أنفسهم. أرادوا مني أن أوفر إجابات ولكننا لم نوفر جميع الإجابات. وفرنا بعض الشعارات التي يمكن أن تلصق على بعض الجدران، ولكن رغم ذلك القنابل سقطت بجوار تلك المستشفيات ولم أستطع أن أطمئنهم بأن الحماية ستكون كافية. إن الزملاء اليمنيون في نهاية المطاف أكدوا أنهم سيبقون على أي حال وسوف يستمروا في عملهم، وقد حاولت أن أساعدهم بالقدر الكافي. وبعد ما غادرت اليمن لم أشعر بالدهشة عندما استلمت رسالة هاتفية. مستشفى حيدان التي عملت فيها قصفت ودمرت عن بكرة أبيها، ولكن الموظفين فروا والمرضى لم يريدوا أن يبيتوا الليالي ولذلك غادروا المستشفى ولم يصاب أحد. وبطبيعة الحال قال لي الموظفون أن تلك الغارة كانت قد استهدفت عن عمد لأن الإحداثيات كانت موفرة. الزملاء السوريون واليمنيون يوفرون الرعاية الصحية ويستمرون في ذلك قدر الإمكان، ولكنهم يعلمون أن حياتهم محفوفة بالخطر في تلك المنشآت في أوكرانيا وفي اليمن وفي سوريا وفي جمهورية أفريقيا الوسطى. إن المرضى والأطباء والممرضين هم أهداف للقصف، وبطبيعة الحال هم يقتلون، ويجب أن يتغير الوضع. يجب أن تلتزم حكوماتنا بدعم المهمات الطبية. شكرا لكم. حدثنا التالي ميلودي ريدمان، وهي من لجنة الأطباء التي تنتمي إلى رابطة الأطباء البريطانية. هي كانت منشغلة ولكنها أتت إلى هنا لكي تتحدث عن تضامن الأطباء هنا مع الأطباء في كافة أرجاء العالم. مرحبا جميعا، شكرا جزيلا لوجودكم معنا. هل تسمعوني على نحو جيد في الخلف؟ نعم، جيد. إذن أنا متأكد أن الكثير منكم لديكم مسؤولية مهنية وتحديات ومعارك تخوضونها، ولكنكم موجودون هنا لأنكم تعرفون أهمية الوحدة والحديث ببدء فيه عن الغير. خلال الأشهر الماضية في رابطة أطباء بريطانيا عززنا من أهمية الوحدة لأن نقف بجانب بعضنا البعض أكثر من أي وقت مضى، لا سيما عفوا لهذه الطائرة التي تحوم وصوتها والضوضاء التي تولدها. ولكن على أي حال نحن لدينا مسؤولية لكي نتحدث عن الآخرين بالنيابة عن الآخرين كما تفعلون أنتم هنا، أي أن نصل إلى العدالة. وبينما نجلس مع بعضنا البعض يمكننا أن نصل إلى الكثير والكثير بغض النظر عن التحديات التي تعترض سبيلنا. إن العاملون في المجال الصحي في سوريا يواجهون تحديات لا نستطيع أن نبدأ بالتخيل وذيولها. بطبيعة الحال هم يقومون بعملهم ويضمدون جراح المرضى، وهم ربما يعلمون أن هذا هو اليوم الأخير الذي سيقومون بأداء هذه المهمة. إن الخوف